Is that time of the program where we get our weekly update on all things weather with Nebraska Extension's Eric Hunt. Eric, a bit windy where we're at here in Custer County midweek. Are things shaping up with the growing season as we turn to the week ahead?
Thanks, Bryce. I see some heat in the crystal ball for us. For anybody that wants a little bit more information on the extended outlook, I will be doing a more in-depth webinar on Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Mountain Time. Visit cropwatch.unl.edu for more details. First portion of the week, we'll see ridging and some heat in the western United States and troughing into the eastern United States. That will keep the central U.S. in the cooler than normal region. So expect highs mostly in the upper 70s to start the work week. There will be chances of precipitation across the areas along and south of Platte on Saturday afternoon, and there will be some chances of precipitation across western Nebraska on Sunday afternoon as well. Eastern half of the state should start off the work week relatively dry. There will be another chance of precipitation across the entire state on Tuesday with some possibly heavier amounts of rain across portions of west central Nebraska on Tuesday afternoon. I think this might be a little bit underdone across eastern Nebraska. So again, this is through next Thursday. Friday night into Saturday morning, we could actually see some relatively strong storms across eastern Nebraska. So these totals might be a little bit underinflated in some places. As we head to the later portion next week, though, we will be back in ridging, and that will bring some heat. So I would expect temperatures to be at least in the upper 80s everywhere by the end of the next week. Matter of fact, I'm going to probably bet that most everybody in the state will be in the low 90s at some point, probably for consecutive days in a lot of places by the end of this next week. And in southeastern Nebraska, I'd expect heat index values to probably get closer to 100 degrees as dew points push up around 70. The CPC is showing, though, a good chance of above average precipitation for the state as we head to the middle of the month. And I think we'll have to keep an eye on this storm system as we move in the week after next. So this will be a little bit after Father's Day. Now, again, this is quite a ways out, and this is in the artificial intelligence system of the European model. But if this verifies, with this deep trough in the west and the ridging in the east, that would help bring up some Gulf moisture, so bring in plentiful shear. That would mean a really good chance of severe weather for a lot of the central plains and western Corn Belt as we move into the week after next, with potential for some heavier precipitation, but that's still a ways out. The European model is not necessarily showing it being very wet in our area, but not dry either. The GFSO is not necessarily showing this at all. It's keeping the entire region relatively dry. CPC is showing it being relatively warm in that 8 to 14 day period. It's something I will think will come to fruition. In terms of precipitation, the last 7 days, we had some pockets of very heavy precipitation late last week around Falls City, north of Columbus, around Elgin, and to the north of Lexington, with very little amounts of precipitation in parts of Panhandle and just southeast of Lincoln. In terms of the drought monitor, we saw some more improvements across eastern Nebraska. Still just one little existing area drought, less than 2% of the state, but Wilbur over toward Louisville, including parts of Lincoln, we are still technically in moderate drought. Soil moisture percentiles, again, mostly pretty good shape across the state. Some parts of the Panhandle where we have abnormal dryness, we are below the 30th percentile for soil moisture, extremely wet up here in the upper Midwest. Relatively good rangeland conditions across the eastern portion of Sand Hills, with little poor conditions across the Panhandle. Soil temperatures this week are mostly in the upper 60s to low 70s. And in terms of our temperature roundup, we saw temperatures range from 36 to 93 and 6.28 inches of rain in Platte Center. Thanks, and back to you, Bryce.